own resolution condemning Tehran's crackdown on the very same day that Senator John McCain took the administration to task for not speaking out more against the crackdown. The senator, the former presidential nominee, joining me right now from Capitol Hill. Senator, good to have you.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
The administration did say if people want to protest there, that is their right, that is their want, they should. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's a movement in the right direction from saying they don't want to meddle and, they're basically the opposition that they've taken. But I think that there should be a solid statement, such as one we just passed through the United States Senate, that all of us have certain basic human rights and they should be allowed to exercise them, and that we should support people's right to protest without being beaten and killed in the streets of Tehran and cities all over Iran.
All right, so yours is obviously much more strongly worded, but to what extent can this administration go? I mean, the rap against the U.S. involvement in Iran, whether it's through support of the Shah that brought Khomeini and back and forth, is that anything we say or do could complicate things and make things worse. What do you think of that?
I think it's the height frankly, it's a betrayal of what was declared on the 4th of July, 1776, that all of us are endowed with certain inalienable rights. And one of those rights is to be able to disagree with your government peacefully and not be subject to beatings and killing in the streets of any country. And by the way, we sent an envoy over to Iran to tell the Shah of Iran that he had to leave. But look, the point is that all during the Cold War, there was the liberal elites who said we shouldn't do anything to upset the Russians, whether it be the Prague Spring or the workers in Poland and Gdansk. And there was Ronald Reagan, who said take down this wall, called him an evil empire, said he's ready to negotiate, but we have a fundamental right in respect to human rights. And to say we don't want to, quote, meddle, of course, is not in keeping with that tradition in any way. In fact, it's a direct contradiction of it.
So let me ask you, Senator, if you were president right now and you heard the supreme leader in Iran effectively telling these protesters, knock it off or there's going to be trouble, what would you say? What would you do?
I would say we support the rights of all human beings, especially those in Iran who want to peacefully protest and disagree with their government. We support those fundamental inalienable rights. In 1832, I believe it was, or 1823, Daniel Webster defended the rights of the Greeks to rise up against their oppressors. It is a long tradition and should be adhered to. And to say that somehow that will harm our ability to negotiate means that we are giving a green light to oppressive governments, and this certainly is an oppressive one.
All right, so let's say the commander, supreme leader, the Ayatollah, hears that, senator, says, well, that's all well and good, but I'm going through with this. I'm cracking down on these guys, and it could be a very ugly, bloody weekend. What is the United States to do then? What is our posture going to be? How do we move forward? Because this could get very bloody.
Well, and there may be those indications, since the supreme leader said that they were not going to tolerate further demonstrations in the street. If they do, we have to judge it by what the situation as it unfolds. By the way, the French president, the German chancellor, and the British prime minister far more strong in their words in support of these protesters than the president of the United States. Interesting turnaround.
Yeah. I know you're not a market wonk, you're not that nerdy, but I am, Senator, and the markets have, by and large, here and there, ignored this. Do you think to their detriment, to their peril? They're obviously not thinking this is going to amount to much. So oil prices really haven't moved. Markets haven't moved. Are they whistling past the graveyard? What do you think?
I don't know. I think when the president failed to support the protesters in their peaceful, basic human rights. He was walking on the other side of the street. I don't know how the markets react over time. I know that they're very dispassionate, but clearly if this disrupts relations over time with Iran, it could have some effects on the Persian Gulf, where a lot of the world's oil supply is concerned. But the markets are not known for their humanitarian ideals, but the American
You're
people
saying
are.
that they might be a little too sanguine. I understand what you're saying. I do want to touch on a more domestic concern, Senator, and that is this health care debate. You've really come out swinging on the various over-the-top costs being bandied about by anyone from any one of your Senate colleagues to the president himself and the administration. But it got particularly, I wouldn't say nasty, but heated with Senator Dodd earlier today. This is your exchange with him from earlier.
Mm-hmm. There's no point in putting language in front of you if you can't also answer the question that I presume you would ask, and that is, if this is the language you have down, what is the cost of it?
Generally speaking,
John,
when I come up with legislation, I usually have the CBO numbers before I introduce it.
Well, that's what we're going to try and do. We're trying to get language up here that actually has run the numbers on it. We can't run the numbers on it until we actually craft the language and give them something. So
they've run the numbers,
various ideas,
and it's $1 trillion, well, with one-third insured.
Well, that went well. So they're obviously trying to find a way around the CBO numbers, which score this thing very high. You're saying go back to some consistent math, consistent number arbiter. Where does this stand now?
Well, it stands that the charade continues. They continue to, quote, amend or mark up, as they say, a bill without key components such as the employer, how much it's going to cost, and whether there's going to be a government part of this health care reform. And yet we're supposed to be ready to complete this bill by the August recess. So, look, what's happening here is the CBO estimate, which then said only a third of the people that are presently uninsured would be insured, and that would cost $1 trillion. If you do the math, that means $3 trillion for coverage for all Americans that are presently uninsured, and there's no way of paying for it. And so they are in a real bind, and the American people should not be subjected to that. And finally, let's go back to my health care plan when I ran for president.
All right.